At 8-3, Maryland, 4th ranked in the land, 7-3. The Terps, 2-1 in the conference. Rutgers at 1-2. The officials, Peter Buchanan, Joe Cieslak, and Tyler Harriman. It is Rutgers in white getting the first possession. Syracuse, a big smile behind that face mask. He had his first career multi-point game last week in the win over Ohio State. He gets the party started for the Terps, who get the ball right back. And there is a violation that's going to award the ball for Maryland. Working against the acrobatic Duhenio, and it is Wierman who comes up with possession for Maryland. Urksa has a couple of assists. He had a 3-assist game against Notre Dame earlier in the season. Syracuse and Chorus on the board for Maryland in the black. An early 2-0 lead on the road. Overall, the defender for Rutgers said earlier in the week, Maryland doesn't take a shot they don't love. They're more than willing to work deep into a possession, and when they get the right shot, they tend to bury it. Syracuse, Chorus, and Whittier back to back to back. 3-0 for the Terps.
And it just sneaks underneath of him.
Points in 10 of his 11 for Maltz, who was Ohio State that blanked him last weekend off the draw between Duhenio and Wierman. It will be Rutgers' ball.
Really nice
Scarlet
shot.
Knights trailing by 4 early, Mark. What do they need to do offensively to crack the code against Maryland?
They've got to take care of the ball. They have got to.
Matchup. Possible attendance records. Lots of youth lacrosse groups in attendance. As Luke Wierman gets control of the ball to start the second quarter, his mates, 4 different goal scorers in the opening frame. Syracuse, Chorus, Whittier, and Maltz, lifting the Terps to the advantage as Long drags it back behind the cooker.
Yeah, execution is what defined Maryland's offense there in the first quarter. Lack of execution is what defined Rutgers.
Maryland is the last team to beat at the faceoff dot for Maryland. Working against the acrobatic Duhenio, and it is Wierman who comes up with possession for Maryland. Urksa has a couple of assists. He had a 3-assist game against Notre Dame earlier in the season.
On the cutter.
Ethan Rawl, the defender for Rutgers, said earlier in the week, Maryland doesn't take a shot they don't love. They're more than willing to work deep into a possession, and when they get the right shot, they tend to bury it.
Mullen was slow to react, and it just sneaks underneath of him.
Points in 10 of his 11 for Maltz, who was Ohio State that blanked him last weekend off the draw between Duhenio and Wierman. It will be Rutgers' ball.
Really nice
Scarlet
shot.
Knights trailing by 4 early, Mark. What do they need to do offensively to crack the...
We'll be hopping next Saturday night in College Park.
You saw the huge crowd here at SH Giant Stadium for this Sunday night matchup. Possible attendance records, lots of youth lacrosse groups in attendance. As Luke Wierman gets control of the ball to start the second quarter, his mates, 4 different goal scorers in the opening frame. Syracuse, Chorus, Whittier, and Maltz, lifting the Terps to the advantage as Long drags it back behind the cooker. 5 hat tricks this season, is 2/3 of the way there already in the opening half tonight. John Jones races to a loose ball, 77 in the white, comes up with the scoop. Jones, who transferred to Rutgers after 3 seasons at Bryant University. #1 in caused turnovers with that. Now can they get a possession from Duhenio? Wierman pops right away, going right to the cooker. Fast break, just hummed high by Urksa and off the target. That's what's so demoralizing when you try to put goals back to back.
Get your feet square and unrip.
Cameron now 3 goals from 100 in his career. The transfer to Rutgers after 3 seasons in Chapel Hill with the Tar Heels. Has goals in 9 of his 10 games this season. Tallies back-to-back for Rutgers, making this a 3-goal deficit.
Rutgers is such a different team with number 11 in the lineup. Such a big, dodging presence. We saw the shot right there. He is a guy who makes this team different.
Philadelphia area high school lacrosse player of the year out of Malvern Prep. Makes it 6-2 for the Terps. Wierman drawing against Duhenio, and Duhenio comes out of the pack with it. Duhenio, a very gifted lacrosse player, not just one of your face-off, get-off type midfielders.
He's brought some.
Scott fires from the angle and scores. Ross Scott.
Caught me off guard, Joe. Rutgers is known for early offense, but they have struggled in that department, especially in this game. Dehenio with the face-off win. You gotta love the ground ball that was created by LeJon Jones, and then Scott doesn't really force the issue. You see it's kind of a dummy dodge, but then he plants his foot in the dirt, spins back because he realizes Zappatello may have relaxed a little bit. We talked about it earlier. These guys know each other inside and out, both from the state of Oregon. They've played against and with each other for years, and I think Zappatello I don't think he thought Ross was going to shoot that.
Dehenio bounces this one loose, and Dehenio comes up with a possession much needed for Rutgers. Ross Scott displaying the football at Maryland in the mid-'80s to early '90. 85 to 90, he was an inside linebacker with the Terrapins.
There were some good teams. Those are Bobby Ross years, right?
You got it. Wierman there showing a little bit of a linebacker mentality. So too with Dehenio at the face-off dot. This will be possession, it appears, for Maryland. There is a flag down.
Hey, 1:42 on the clock.
So that is the third violation against Rutgers. Comes late, a minute 42.
Screen with Lacrosse. Coach Brett asking for a word from the officials upon this exchange.
I guess they may have gotten Dehenio for a hold on the initial grab, and that has to be 3 violations. So that is the
Maltz's second of the evening, closing in on a 20-goal campaign. Maryland has its largest lead back again. They jumped out 5-0 in this game. Now it's 8-3, looking for more in the last minute of the half. On the slow break, Mullen fights off that drive from Geppert.
7.
Knobloch, who was the overtime hero against Michigan last weekend, has goals in 7 straight. Terps get the draw. Kohler is running with it. On the feed for Urksa, picked up by Stahanczyk. Long drive late, no troubles for Mullen. As the
great crowd, home field, primetime Sunday night on Big Ten Network. They got to start making some plays.
Rutgers' only win all time. This is meeting number 36. The only win for Rutgers came in late March of 1980. Dehenio gets the draw, then gets de-sticked. And Urksa comes up with a ground ball in black for Maryland.
We've seen a lot of de-twigging tonight. Dehenio de-twig Luke Wierman. Now Wierman returns the favor. That's some impressive one.
Urksa, who quieted the noisy house at Ohio State last weekend with his overtime winner. Tied for 3rd on the Maryland point scoring race when play began tonight. He's already got 4 points and counting in this one.
That's a gigantic goal. That's a potential 2-goal turnaround right there. Instead of it being 8-5, Rutgers looks up to haunt them.
6 multi-goal games this season for Daniel Kelly. 22 tallies overall. Maryland has its largest lead on the night. Tereski and the Scarlet Knights have to string some goals together here in a hurry.
Big time. Maryland is not an easy team to come back on, even if you're only down by 2 or 3.
Ross Scott wheeling back behind the cage. Scott.
Logan McNaney has been an incredible tutor, mentor, and friend to him during the entire process.
Wierman wins the draw cleanly for Maryland. The Terps regain the possession. At the tail end of the face-off X we go. This time it's Joe Newman digging in on the draw against Luke Wierman. Newman, the transfer from Yale. Ball popped loose and it belongs to Kohler. So Russo gets himself on the board. The same Bobby Russo who scored against Marist face-off now. Really big. Savetti's 9th. At the draw we go. Wierman and Dehenio trade her off the wing, and it comes up for Geppert. John Geppert, so crafty at his long stick midfielder position, wins the ground ball and the possession, and a chance for Maryland to drain more time off the game clock.
That's a gigantic ground ball. I mean, that is what the new face-off rules hope to have happen. A 3-on-3 situation, and Geppert with the 70 inches of titanium just picks it up off the carpet.
Ross Scott, who just set up Savetti, has a goal in 3.
And Rutgers crawls to within 3.
It is the closest they've been since they trailed 5-2 in the second quarter. Face-off control for Wierman. Luke Wierman came into tonight winning 63%. He gets tracked down, was knocked down. Possession for the Terps.
And they're going to give a timeout to Maryland.
There was a timeout asked for and given.
What the Rutgers faithful is unhappy about is maybe a potential no call on a push against Wierman. Let's look at it. I don't think that's a push, but I could have been sold on a hold by Luke Wierman as he was pulling up under the armpit of Dehenio. And right when he gets in the box, right there is when they're given the timeout. So Luke Wierman, again, being a warrior at the face-off dot, playing tough as we look at some of his numbers.
He was the Big Ten Specialist of the Week last week, and look from left to right how impressive he was as the game went further along.
He was struggling against Matthew Fritz in the first quarter, and like many great face-off men, he makes adjustments and he figures it out. 80% in the second quarter, 100% in the third quarter. Fourth quarter, 2 out of 3, and then he won an all-important face-off in overtime for the Maryland Terrapins. And then tonight, he's been perfect in the fourth quarter thus far.
Watch the sideline here. John Tillman, the head coach, is going to get this timeout call in the gray hooded sweatshirt there in the circle. Asks for time, gets the time.
Look, he can run and then make the timeout signal without dropping the iPad. That is some dexterity.
Terps have it.